So, as we've seen the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame change over the years, there's an awful lot of things that wouldn't be categorized as rock normally that are now part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we're seeing that in some of the folks that have been nominated this year.
The Fizz Radio, thefizzradio.com.
Hey, Fizz fans. Welcome back to the podcast, and thanks for tuning into the Fizz Radio official podcast. My name is J.Y. Kelly.
And I'm Hurricane Andrew.
And today we are talking about the 2026 nominations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who should be inducted this year? And we'll get the 7 picks from our resident music guru, Hurricane Andrew. So we're really excited to have you back on the podcast, Andrew.
Glad to be back. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's fun. It's a little controversial. It's really hard to pick just 7 folks to nominate, but here we are. We're going to give it a go. We'll justify what I'm picking, and then we'll talk a little bit about the folks that just are on the edge that probably should be in there anyways. But since we have a limitation of 7, we'll go through my 7, and I can't wait to talk about them.
Well, of course, your enormous CD collection is something that we talk a lot about on the Fizz Radio. If you listen to the station, of course, you heard us talk about the retro pop and classic alternative from the end of the millennium. It's the foundation of what you hear on the radio station. So I know you have opinions when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the nominees. Fan voting, if you don't know, is open right now until April 3rd. On the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame website. We'll put the links to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where you can go and cast your votes in the show notes down below. You can vote for up to 7 nominees every day, but they've announced 17 nominees for induction this year, including a lot of diverse folks, some first-time nominees, other folks, of course, Phil Collins, Mariah Carey, Lauryn Hill, INXS, Shakira, Wu-Tang Clan, New Edition, Pink, Melissa Etheridge, Jeff Buckley, Oasis, Iron Maiden, Sade, Black Crowes, Billy Idol, Joy Division, New Order, and Luther Vandross, all on the list. And
It's a
Andrew, I
really
know you've
strong
been pretty,
list.
yeah, I mean, you would expect that from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I know you've been pretty clear about your number one choice, Phil Collins. And right, yeah, be sure to check out Hurricane Andrew's blog about why Phil Collins should be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's on the Fizz Radio website right now.
And we're going to talk about that too, because he deserves
well, I know
all the praise.
We would be remiss if he wasn't in your list.
Correct. Well, then we'll get into some of the other choices that I made, why I went with the choices that I made. We'll even talk about honorable mentions, the folks that are on the nominee list that I would vote for if I had more votes. And that's kind of what it always comes down to, is if I could vote for more than 7, I would vote for more than 7. But we'll talk about my 7 this time around and how I picked them. I'm really excited about this.
Well, and I'm excited to hear your 7 picks. But before we get into that, fill me in a little bit. Tell me what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is about, what you know. Give us a little backstory about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and, why this is a thing even.
Sure. Hey, back in 1983, Ahmet Ertegun, I think I've got that right, founder and chairman of Atlantic Records, decided they needed to start recognizing artists who had made a significant impact on the nature of rock and roll. Uh, Obviously, that seemed like a sensible thing to do, in that there are a number of Hall of Fames, particularly in the Ohio area. And so, of course, they chose Cleveland, Ohio as the home for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they built a new museum right on the lakefront there. In 1995, they opened it. And it is remarkable. It's got
It's a
pyramid
beautiful
shape.
place, yeah.
It's so cool. And look, if you get a chance, if you're in Cleveland for any reason, make sure you spend an afternoon at the Rock Hall, because it's got artifacts from tours of your favorite artists. It's got songs. It talks about influences, who influenced who. There's almost always a special display that features one artist prominently. Last time I was there, it was Bruce Springsteen. It is an educational place, but it is also, it refills your energy when you're there. If you are a music lover, it's a place that you should go to many times because it's very cool.
And it's always changing. Like you said, there's a featured exhibit. When I was there, it was John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and they had John Lennon's classic round glasses, the wire rim glasses, and the church pews made into a bed that they did the piece, sit
The
in.
piece in, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool stuff for
Now, one of the
sure.
things about the Rock Hall that we need to know, though, is that for the longest time, the biggest influence on who got to go into the Rock Hall was Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone editor Jan Wenner was one of the biggest factors in whether you were nominated or not, and had a large influence in as to who would get in. And so, because they limit the number of inductees every year, it's really odd to look through the list of those who are in the Rock Hall and those who aren't in the Rock Hall. There seems to be kind of a patchwork of things that you would have assumed they should have been in there, and yet
And
other
wonder
people who
how
are
is it
like,
possible that they're not yet?
you're right. And Phil Collins is one of them, and of course I'll get into that. But there's a number of other folks that are in there, and you're like, I, that doesn't sound like rock music to me. Maybe their influence is there. And I'll give a good example. An excellent musician and all around awesome human being, Dolly Parton, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, Dolly Parton herself will tell you she is a country singer. And she turned down the rock and roll honor for many years and finally said, okay, I'll participate, I'll be excited about it, and came into the fold just like a couple of years ago. Because she is very influential on Southern rock and women fronted bands, and her influence is undeniable. That being said, if there's a country hall of fame, she should have been the first person inaugurated. She should be in the singer songwriter hall of fame. There are a lot of hall of fames that I would have put Dolly Parton in, that she would be the natural go in before some of the bands that are on this year's list that have been trying time and time again. So
Right. It's called the
it,
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it sounds like,
correct.
just based on the name, if you were going only on that, there should be kind of two criteria, right? It has to be rock and roll, and they
And you
have to
should
be
be
famous.
famous. Yeah, exactly. And there are singer-songwriter Hall of Fames, and there are country Hall of Fames, and there are these other organizations. So as we've seen the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame change over the years, they've added more categories, they've added hip hop, they've added rap. There's an awful lot of things that wouldn't be categorized as rock normally that are now part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we're seeing that in some of the folks that have been nominated this year. I'm going to tell you right up front, I think Wu-Tang Clan should be in a lot of places, but I don't think that they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in front of some of the other folks that I'm nominating this time around, for example. Does my vote matter in that case? No, there are a lot of people who are saying Wu-Tang Clan is going to be nominated this year. If you were a betting person, you could bet on that happening and you would probably come out a winner. But that being said, on my vote, I'm voting for rock and roll first, rock fronted bands first, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the seven.
Well, let's jump into it. We've got your 7 picks. Again, the voting is open now for fan votes until April 3rd. You can vote every day, once a day, for up to 7 nominees. So you could vote for 7 today, and tomorrow you could vote for 7 different ones if you wanted to, but only 7 a day, every
Right.
day until April 3rd. So how do you want to do this?
Well, I
Top
will tell
top
you,
7 just in no particular order, or you want to
you know
start
what?
with just your first pick?
I'm gonna start with my first pick because it's kind of obvious, and we've already brought him up a few times, and that's Phil Collins. Look, I've written down why Phil Collins is phenomenal. You can read that whole article. If I just listed out the songs he's well known for, In the Air Tonight, Studio, I Wish It Would Rain Down, One More Night, Billy Don't Lose My Number, You'll Be in My Heart, there's Easy Lover, there's all these different songs that you can immediately, if I say the name, you can hear the song playing in your head. And just for singer-songwriter purposes, that should have been enough to get him in the Hall of Fame. But it's not just that. Phil Collins is, of course, a virtuoso drummer. As a drummer, he is featured in things like the soundtrack to Tarzan is Phil going ape on drums. I mean, that's how
I
intense
see what
that
you did
soundtrack
there.
is. Yeah, I like these types of things. But even before that, he was performing with Eric Clapton. He was performing with Frida from ABBA. If I know there's something going on, that big drum riff that you're hearing, that's Phil. Genesis, his drumming with Genesis and then becoming the frontman for Genesis while still drumming. If you ever watch any of his video where he's performing, he's singing and then he goes back to the drums and he plays drum rhythms, polyrhythms, odd time signatures. He's drumming there with Chester Thompson, giving all of the energy that you possibly can, and then gets back out in front of the crowd and sings like he wasn't even in a marathon drum fest with that voice of his that is so distinct. Like, it is impossible to look at that man and not think, holy cats, that is one cool dad rock. But more than a dad rocker, he is an incredible musician, incredible artist. There's no question that Phil Collins should be in the list. So this should be my least surprising pick.
So Phil Collins, of course, no surprise there, and you can read Hurricane Andrew's blog on why Phil Collins should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That link is on our website at thefizzradio.com.
The gated reverb drum alone was the sound of the 80s.
Boom, 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 boom.
It came from him recording on Peter Gabriel's Intruder. There are multiple explainer videos on YouTube. Find one. Vox has a good one. Listen to it. Hear how much it has influenced artists, including Prince in the 1980s. And if you can influence the sound of Prince in the 1980s, you are a powerhouse. You are inventive. Phil Collins belongs in.
All right. Moving on then. Give us your next
Mhm.
vote.
My next vote is Oasis. Look, they were inescapable from 1994 to 1998. Noel and Liam Gallagher, they were the dominant sound of rock in the mid 90s. Let's just go through it. Champagne Supernova and Wonderwall, those two songs were back to back hits that just dominated radio. They were rock radio. They were sounding like the Beatles, as if the Beatles had made it all the way into the 90s. They wore that influence on their sleeves. Then you also add songs like Don't Look Back in Anger. There was a tragic incident at a concert in England. It was an Ariana Grande concert, and then they did a big fundraiser for the families that were affected by that tragedy. And Ariana Grande came back. Coldplay played Don't Look Back in Anger for Ariana to try and bring her spirits up for the work that she was doing to help these families out. And the entire audience sang along with her. It is an anthem. Don't Look Back in Anger alone should be enough as a song, as an anthem to explain the importance of Oasis to England and across the pond even. And then their last big single was Don't Go Away, which sounds exactly like a late psychedelic era Beatles tune that is expertly written, wonderfully influential as far as like all the instrumentations, the big sound, that wall of sound that they replicated. The band's huge. They just came back on tour last year, sold out concerts everywhere. I know that the brothers hated each other for far too long, but their influence is not has not waned in the years that they were gone. So Oasis is my second pick.
Britpop for number 2.
Hmm.
Great. So, all right. Moving on. Number 3, your third vote.
All right, this one I have got to say this one is a personal pick, um, and that's the Black Crowes. My favorite song to turn on in the morning as I'm getting ready to go to work is Thorn in My Pride. It was my alarm for a long time. That opening acoustic guitar hit, the sound of the organ that plays as it comes in the background, it builds so wonderfully. But the very first line is Wake me when the day breaks, show me how the sun shines. It is a morning song. And they nailed it. And the thing about their songs is they keep nailing their themes. They did a cover of Hard to Handle. That's what most people heard first when they first heard the Black Crowes. And they're like, holy cats, this band is ready to rock. And then you hear the blues influence Jealous Again. She Talks to Angels. That's all on that first album, Shake Your Moneymaker. They come out then with the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion with Remedy and Sting Me and that Thorn in My Pride song that I love. Those two albums are essential. If you don't have those two albums in your collection, go to the CD store, go to the record store, get yourself a copy of those two albums. all you have to do is put them on, and you too will be like, this is a Southern rock band that absolutely belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. These are Southern rock sounds that came out at the height of grunge, 90, 92, 94. That was not the predominant rock sound on the radio, and yet they were so talented that they were able to cut through a lot of the noise and make really huge impact on rock and roll. And so that's why Black Rose is my third pick.
Third picks. We got Phil Collins, Oasis, Black Crowes. What's number 4?
Number 4, this woman, I've seen her live. When you hear her raspy voice, it sounds like it belongs in a smoky bar. You are on board. Melissa Etheridge is my number 4 overall pick. I'm telling you, like that album, Yes I Am, was so critical in the 90s to have a big sound coming from an incredibly talented singer-songwriter. Her voice is huge. Her voice was massive. And the messaging that it gave to a lot of folks that were right on the edge of the 80s, they'd come out of the 80s. There was this more of an acceptance of LGBT community, and her boldly claiming "Yes, I am" to the world as the title of her biggest album. What a massive way to show that I'm talented, I am undeniable, I am incredible, and I am worthy. And those things that when you hear "I'm the only one" or "Come to my window," if you hear that live, the crowd sings all of those songs at the top of their voices the whole night because how important those songs are to the folks that have come to see her perform.
Where did you see her
Uh,
live?
I saw her at Luther College back in the 1990s. It just so happens she now is married and has settled, or is at least frequently visits our hometown here in Illinois. So every once in a while, if you're out and about and you're at the grocery store, you might run into Melissa Etheridge. That being said, I would have voted for her if she still lived out on the East Coast or the West Coast or wherever, because she's 100% worthy of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Melissa Etheridge, number 4, absolutely worthy of your time.
All right, number 5.
All right, y'all. INXS was the band in the 1980s as the 80s turned into the 90s. They managed to bridge the 80s to the 90s because of their songwriting. Their songwriting is so tight. Michael Hutchins' voice, that baritone, man, you can hear it. If you just mention Devil Inside, you can hear Devil Inside in your head. If you've heard it once, it's got that driving. It's a fantastic driving song. You could get a speeding ticket with Devil Inside if you play it on repeat. That one, in fact, if I was making a driving soundtrack, it would have that from this list. It would have that song. It would have Wiser Times by Black Crowes. These guys knew how to write really catchy, really driving songs, but then they would slow it down. Never Tear Us Apart. What a dramatic tune. If you want to absolutely kill at karaoke and you can manage to hit his notes, Never Tear Us Apart is one of those songs that you can only sing it from your heart. And it absolutely blows you away every time you hear it. Then you think of all the other stuff: Suicide Blonde, Disappear, Beautiful Girl, all of those things. All of those things would be like great soundtrack ads. But one that I would tell you, if you're writing a script, if you're looking for a needle drop, Need You Tonight is one of those songs that can immediately tell your audience what your character's thinking without having them say it. Need You Tonight is what a cool, dark, longing song. It's just NXS had it all. They had the voice, they had songwriting, they had lyrics, they used synths and electronic music, they used traditional guitars and traditional drums. They just did all of the things. NXS is my number 5.
One of the quintessential MTV videos that I recall from, my later teenage years. I saw INXS in concert in Minneapolis in, I don't know when, maybe 1989 or 90. So yeah, fond
I mean,
memories of INXS for me here too. So
you probably sang along to more of their songs than
for
you
sure,
could when you went to see them. Phenomenal.
for sure. All right.
Just an insane band.
So who's your number 6 pick?
So this is starting to get into the area where these last 2 picks are hard because it means I'm going to be leaving some good bands on the table. But then again, I have to look at who should have been in there already. And for me, Billy Idol should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame already. So I'm voting for Billy Idol as my number six. Now, look, if you wanted to cosplay punk, you would look at a Billy Idol record or music video from the late 80s, early 90s. You'd find the studded vest, you'd find or coat, the bleached spiky hair, the bad boy persona. I think that Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer was probably just somebody trying to recreate Billy Idol from a character perspective. His influence, again, we're talking about influence here. He brought punk sensibilities to the mainstream. You've got Rebel Yell, you've got White Wedding. These are huge vocal songs that are sing-alongs or but they're dark. Like White Wedding is not a pleasant song. The lyrics to that are dark, but it was so good. It was so well written that it was catchy and it made the Hot 100 and top 40. It got played a lot. Hot in the City, when you have a heat wave in your town, your radio guy is probably going to play Hot in the City at least once in the we're telling you what the weather is and it's very unpleasant out there. There's a lot of young gentlemen that understood a little more than they did before they saw Cradle of Love music video, after they saw the Cradle of Love music video, because that's a wild short film. That is a crazy short film, and there's a lot of awakening that happened during the Cradle of Love video. But that being said, even that song, that driving beat, it probably holds a place right next to Devil Inside as far as things that make you want to get up, move around, and go do things. Cradle of Love is a fantastic song. And then big power ballad, Eyes Without a Face. I mean, you can hear Eyes Without a Face and not realize that it's the Love, Rebel Yell, same guy. He's a versatile singer, an incredibly cool icon. Billy Idol, my number six.
Well, when he can show up along with Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer, Billy Idol gets it.
Hmm. He knows. He knows where he lives in this pop culture world, but he deserves to be recognized for it. And I think it's a no-brainer. Billy Idol, absolutely worthy of the Rock Hall.
All right, we're at the end of the list for your 7 votes for today. Who's number 7?
This one was really hard because the one that I think should be in there that isn't already is New Order, and with Joy Division, they are up for nominees, and I think you should vote for them if they influenced you, and they influenced a lot of folks in the 80s. But in terms of sheer volume of songs that have made an impact, I went with my number 7, Pink. Pink's going to be tough for me to justify in some ways, but easy for me to justify in others. She represented a bridge between hip hop, pop, and rock. Yes, she is a DJ kid that comes from the clubs, but man, when she sings to you, "So What? I'm Still a Rock Star," you believe her because she's a rock star. There you go. Lady Marmalade. When she sings Lady Marmalade, she owns Lady Marmalade, and that's difficult to do on any record that involves Christina Aguilera. But Pink is the front woman for that group. It was her. I mean, think about all the people, and when they got up to accept their music video award, Pink was the one that spoke. You've got huge personalities on that record, but Pink is the one that stood out and said her piece there. That's massive. That is a rock star move. You've got Get the Party Started, Don't Let Me Get Me, Just Like a Pill, I mean, Portrait, God is a DJ. There's all these things. Razor Glass was played at my wedding. I'm just going to tell you, Pink made a huge impact that I think we're going to feel for years to come. And she's still out there. She's still touring. She's climbing up on silks and doing full
Trapeze artist.
aerobatic stuff while she's singing her songs. Like, get out of here. If you can't vote for Pink, if you can't see how much she's a rock star, like, I don't know what to tell you. That is the definition of a rock star, and she deserves to be in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Pink is my number 7.
All right, so we've got Hurricane Andrew's top 7 votes for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, look for Hurricane Andrew's blog about Phil Collins, thefizzradio.com in the blog. We'll post the link to that in the show notes, as well as the link to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where you can cast your 7 votes each day until April 3rd. The fan voting closes. Now, we were looking at this yesterday. The fan voting is only a portion of the criteria for who actually gets inducted.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say there are a lot of other nominees. Please go pick yours. My wife was out there. She's saying Luther Vandross belongs in. There's New Edition belongs in there. Jeff Buckley has a really good case. So go out there and make your voice known, and don't forget to vote.
I mean, you could vote for 7 today and 7 different ones tomorrow if you wanted to. So you
100%, and
have that
definitely
option.
do that. Definitely do that. My
So,
battery is about to die, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is awesome. Thank you so much for having me on to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
awesome, Andrew. Thanks so much, our resident music guru, Hurricane Andrew, and the 7 picks. Thank you, sir. Recapping the 7 picks. Number 1, Phil Collins. Oasis was number 2. Black Crowes, Melissa Etheridge, INXS, Billy Idol, and Pink. Hurricane Andrew, thanks so much. Talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time. Thank you very much.